Welcome to the Online Great Books podcast, brought to you by onlinegreatbooks.com, where we talk about the good life, the great books, great conversation, and great ideas.
Hello, dear listener. Welcome back to the Online Great Books podcast. Today, Scott and Karl continue their discussion on Dorothy Johnson's Indian Country, or do they? They do a little bit, but then they decide that the book is just too good to talk about. So what fills the next hour of your time? Well, we start with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. That gets us into John Ford movies. From there, we move to the decline of American entertainment as a whole. And eventually, we'll get to time travel, but not exactly time travel, more like wormholes. I think wormholes would be correct because what Scott and Karl wind up discussing requires a displacement of both space and time. But if you came here for Indian Country, I promise you won't be disappointed. This is the conclusion to their discussion. Thanks for listening. Be sure to go to onlinegreatbooks.com and get on our mailing list for updates, and we'll return next week with something brand new. Take care.
So this book is just made out of these, 15, 20-page stories. They're so good, and there's so much in them that isn't written. Like you said, Karl, they're iceberg stories. Which is interesting to me because in this book is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I don't want to skip anything that you want to cover, but that starts on page 89 and ends on page 107. So what does that mean? That's 18 pages. So John Ford makes this movie about it. The movie is 2 hours and 3 minutes out of an 18-page story. And these stories are just as sparse as they could be. Like the first one, some kids are taken away by the Indians, and then they come back. There you go. I mean, that's the story. It's crazy. The Prairie Kid, when Elmer Merrick was 11 years old, he marched an outlaw off the Ainsworth Place at the point of a gun. That's the story. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is just as sparse. And they made a 2-hour movie out of it. And I thought, why do they have to buy the rights to one of these stories from Dorothy Johnson? Like, what's at play here? Like, why can't they just write down a sentence like, Burt Barracoon died in 1910, not more than a dozen persons showed up for his funeral. And then build the story. Why do they have to pay Dorothy Johnson for it?
It's not as easy as it sounds.
But the movie isn't like the story. You're right. It's not as easy as it sounds. If it was, John Dos Passos could write a book, or Salinger could write a book. I understand that, but they pay her, and then they make this thing that's nothing like what she did. Like, why? What's the game? Why are they paying her? And it's not
for the title. I don't know.
But the lady who stabbed Freedom Covalence, like, they don't have to. I mean, it's not like Dorothy Johnson had a bunch of cred and had her own following. If they cared about that, they would make a Monster Hunters movie. Because the guy snaps his fingers and people buy his stuff. They know he's good. Dorothy Johnson was never like that. I don't know, man. Like, what's the game?
I don't know. I'd probably have to see what John Ford had to say about it. Maybe he just loved the story. Now that I've read the story, I need to watch the movie again.
Yeah. Jimmy Stewart bumps me as a hero. I just, I don't like it.
You don't like any Jimmy Stewart?
No, in Westerns, I typically don't like him. But Denver Pyle's in that movie. Uncle Jesse, right? Strother Martin, the captain from Cool Hand Luke. He's in there. Lee Van Cleef. Always love Lee Van Cleef. Best bad guy ever. John Carradine. Good God. John Wayne's in that movie. Lee Marvin is in that movie. What a cast. And then, of course, it's Mr. Ford.
Yeah, so about John Ford, I have this theater kid daughter who thinks she's highfalutin. I don't know, maybe she is. But she's artsy. And usually doesn't like the kind of movies that I like. But I was building some furniture for her. We're watching The Quiet Man, which is a John Ford non-Western Western in Eastern, about the guy that goes back to Ireland. You look at that movie, and there are so many beautiful scenes where it's just composed perfectly. The lighting is wonderful. Pictorially, he gets what Dorothy's doing with words in the movies. The landscape that he picks for all his westerns and the way the landscape's a character in the movie. John Ford's a big deal. If you haven't watched many John Ford movies, you should, dear listener. Go watch some. They're good fun. And also good to look at. My dad's favorite's The Searchers, which is kind of The Flame on the Frontier. Based on the true story. My favorite's The Quiet Man, but
The Searchers. So good. Natalie Wood is piping hot. If I was enough dude, I'd wear a hat like Ethan's in The Searchers. It's just the coolest outfit in the world. The gingham shirt, the bandana, the hat, the pants with the cuff on them. Just the whole
If
movie.
you wore it now, people would say that's a lot of hat for
right.
for you.
God, that whole movie is just wonderful. You know, Cecil B. DeMille hated communists. Cecil B. DeMille was the head of the Directors Guild, and he was trying to get all of these directors to sign a loyalty oath. Have you heard this?
Mm-mm.
And there was a guy named Joseph Mankiewicz who was the president of the Directors Guild, I think before DeMille. It was being alleged that he had communist sympathies. This is all during the whole McCarthy era. It wasn't a Red Scare. It was a prophecy. He was right about everything. After the Soviet Union fell and we got access to their private papers from the intelligence services, we found out that he was right about virtually every accusation he made. But you'll never hear that. You'll never see that, retracted from a, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich history textbook from your stupid public school. Anyway, DeMille, they had a meeting about this. The whole Directors Guild had a meeting about this. And DeMille's faction. So this is from Infogalactic. I've heard this story, and I love Ford is wrong. Ford is wrong about this, but he makes a speech against DeMille demanding that Mankiewicz and other directors sign a loyalty oath and deny communism. Ford says, "My name's John Ford." He's got a fucking eye patch, and everybody knows who he is. Like, there's nobody in the room that would not know who John Ford is. It'd be like going to a Directors Guild meeting now and a guy standing up, kind of fruity with a beard, is like, "My name's Steven Spielberg." They would all know who he is. He says, "My name's John Ford. I make Westerns. I don't think there's anyone in this room who knows more about what the American public wants than Cecil B. DeMille, and he certainly knows how to give it to them. But I don't like you, CB. I don't like what you stand for, and I don't like what you've been saying here tonight." Ford was wrong. There. But I like the way he speaks.
Well, he was wrong
and he's straightforward.
You liked the way he was
I like the way he was wrong. "My name is John Ford. Yeah. I make Westerns. I don't think there's anyone in this room who knows more about what the American public wants than Cecil B. DeMille, and he certainly knows how to give it to them." Looking at DeMille. "But I don't like you, CB. I don't like what you stand for, and I don't like what you've been saying here tonight." His favorite instrument was John Wayne. Who was John Wayne acting?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that line could have come right out of a John Wayne movie. "My name's J.B. McClintock. I'm the biggest landowner in this territory." Fill in the blank.
"Somebody ought to teach you manners, but it ain't going to be me. Like hell it ain't." Yeah. John Wayne plays the same character all the time, but it's a compelling character. And if you want to understand certain types of people, you probably ought to try to figure out why they like John Wayne movies.
Yeah. Big Jake. So good.
Aren't the Sons of the Pioneers in one of the Cavalry trilogy movies?
I don't know.
She wore a yellow ribbon.
I love Sons of the Pioneers.
With the with the cute as a button but grown up Shirley Temple is in that movie.
Can we listen to Little Big Jake?
Yeah, these are good. Go have a John Wayne or John Ford film festival. It'd be
Here's
worth your
34
time.
seconds from Big Jake.
You go ahead. You go right ahead. If there's anything I enjoy more than hanging a sheep herder, it's hanging somebody who sticks his nose into my business. Go on. You try to cut that rope.
No, you got me scared. You do it. Dog!
Six's dog on him.
Get him off! Get him off! Dog!
Just who in the hell do you think you are?
Jacob McCandles.
Oh, I thought you were dead, Mr. McCandles.
Not hardly.
Not hardly.
You gonna cut him down?
I got to learn to say my name like that. I gotta practice that. I only have 2.5
Yeah, I don't
syllables.
think you can say Carl Shoot like that.
I'm Carl Shoot. Nah, I don't know how to do that.
Jacob McCandles.
Let your name precede you into the room. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I'm John Ford. I make Westerns. Perfect. Charity and I have to watch McClintock about twice a year. And I don't watch movies.
With Maureen O'Hara.
He spanks her with that coal shovel. There's nothing in the world she wanted more than that. God, that's a good movie.
They were good friends.
Yeah. They're great together.
Maureen O'Hara and John.
They're great together.
She's a fine-looking woman.
What else about this movie? This book?
Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. It's a weird story. It's a love story, but the one who should get the girl doesn't get the girl, but he loves her none the same. He stopped loving her today. Could have been Burt Barracoon. Yeah, so page 106. Burt Barracoon sagged in, unwashed, unshaven. He sat down stiffly. At the age of 50, he was an old man, an unwanted relic of the frontier that was gone, a legacy to more civilized times that had no place for him. He filled his pipe deliberately. After a while, he remarked, "The other side's going to say you ain't fitting to be governor because your wife ain't fancy enough. They're going to say Hallie didn't even learn to read till she was growed up." Rance was on his feet, white with fury. "Then I'm going to win this election if it kills me." "I don't reckon it'll kill you," Burt drawled. "Liberty Valance couldn't." So he's in love with Hallie. Burt has always loved Hallie. Hallie marries Ransom Foster. Burt keeps looking in on Ransom and making sure that he's being all he could be. Not because he likes Ransom Foster. He doesn't. But because he loves Hallie. That's a weird love story. It's a good one, though.
Yeah.
And the dialogue's fun.
I don't want to talk about it too much because it's so good.
Ain't you dead yet? Not yet, but soon. Ransom Foster's an interesting character, too. He's not likable at all.
That's the Jimmy Stewart one, who becomes the politician.
Yeah, that's a good one. You could buy it just to read that story. Although I liked Flame on the Frontier better.
How'd you feel about War Shirt?
It's killer. I don't even want to summarize it. Francis Mason had a brother who left after, I forget why, an argument with his parents. His brother left, went native, and Francis hires a guide to go out and find his brother. But his brother is now a Cheyenne chief and would not admit to being his brother. And you keep reading the story expecting that at some point there's going to be a reveal. At some point there'll be a reconciliation, an acknowledgement that, yes, I am your... He's got a distinctive birthmark on his hand.
He's got a port...
of a hand on his
port
face.
wine stain on his face.
Yeah, the mark of Cain. So he knows it's his brother. It's a unique mark. You think this guy's going to relent. The Cheyenne chief is going to relent and say, "Yes, my brother." Spoiler, he never does. He's made a complete break. He doesn't want to go back. He wants to stay with his adopted people. He gets handed the book of poetry that he wrote when he was a child. Medicine Mark handed the book of Charles Mason's poems to his brother Francis, saying politely in Cheyenne, "Maybe there is medicine in this for white men, but I do not know. It is not for my people." It's his book. He doesn't want to come back. "I can't understand the white men, and I don't want to see them anymore. They kill the buffalo, and my people go hungry. They shoot my young men, and our women wail in the lodges. Our children have no fathers to make meat. I don't want to see any more white men. I will kill all I can until I die." Mason should go back to his own place and mourn for his brother. "I think the Pawnees killed that man when he was young. I was born a Cheyenne. My father was Bullman. My mother was She Sings. I have gone to war many times. I used to go to war with only a lance to show I was not afraid to die, but now I go to war with guns because I am afraid my people will die." Ugh. So this guy went out, he did, what is it, the
County coup.
The ritual at the pole. Another story in this book that has that, where you get pierced through with needles or something and have to stand at a pole, and it's...
They cut us 2 slits in your, actually 4. 2 pairs of slits in the chest or back, and pass a wooden peg through those 2 slits, and then affix a leather taunt on each end of that, and then suspend the young man off the ground, hanging by his skin, essentially. And he's to hang there until everybody's bored or until it tears through, to show his mettle, a rite of passage or initiation.
And so, I mean, if you think, well, these are Western stories, it's going to be, cowboys and Indians, and Medicine Mark, that's his name now. I mean, he's right. They killed the buffalo. So you have to think about this conflict of cultures. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. The plains used to be covered with buffalo. You can see some old pictures of it. Just covered. They're what kept the prairie healthy, if you read Alan Savory's book. It's what the great middle of the continent needed to keep the grasslands healthy. They needed the ruminant animals, and there were millions of them. And the people lived off of them. They didn't have fixed homes. You couldn't go destroy their town because they didn't have one. And they just followed the food supply. Well, you couldn't get rid of, for example, the Comanche. You couldn't get rid of them, but you could get rid of their food. And so the killing of the buffalo wasn't primarily just to get rid of them for farmland. It was to get rid of the food supply of the people that we couldn't get rid of any other way. Starve them out. Mm-hmm. It's a rough story, but it's true. Yeah, that War Shirt is a great story. It doesn't go where I thought it was going to go.
So good. One of my best friends is a Sac and Fox Indian. There aren't very many of them. He said, hey, next time you guys butcher chickens, I'm going to come out. I would like to come out and help in Depaul. And I said, listen, man, we don't run them off of a cliff and then go down there and pick up their broken bodies. Like, you actually have to kill them. He's like, all right, I'll see you the 23rd. Yeah. But they would do that to the buffalo.
Yeah. How about Scars of Honor with Charlie Lockjaw? Again, you get the whole story in the first sentence. Charlie Lockjaw died last summer on the reservation. He was very old, 100 years, he had claimed. This is just an old guy dying. The story, gosh, it's... I wrote at the end of it, Wendell Berry. Mm-hmm. It made me think of Wendell. He's lived too long. He's lived 20 years too long. All the old ways are gone. At his funeral, Joe Walking Wolf sacrifices a horse, which is a startling thing. You don't do in 1946 or whenever he's supposed to have died. And then the rest of the story is told, and you find out why they do it. That there were these 4 young men that were being drafted to go fight a war in Europe, and they wanted to do their ancestral stuff, but they couldn't find anybody who knew how to do it. He's the last one who knows how to do it. Yeah, it's really good. They have to learn the ways to talk to him. They don't just say, "Hi, Charlie. Will you smoke with us, my grandfather?" They have to do everything the right way to get the traditions of their people and pass them on. They are not my traditions, but that kind of resonates with me. I have traditions I'm not sure they will be passed on.
What are those? The eating of the hot dog? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about our religious rituals here at the Shute family.
That's what I meant.
You know, it's hard times on churches.
Yeah, $12 gallon fuel. It's gonna be rough. You're gonna have circuit riders.
Yeah,
coming around, passing out sacraments. Yeah. So this friend of mine that's Sac Fox, there's only 3,700 of those left. I like to make Plains Indian jokes to him because, I mean, this is some inside Indian nation humor stuff because they're not Plains Indians. They're from up north. They're more related to like Algonkins and Kickapoos and all that. Black Hawk, you know Black Hawk? He was a Sac Fox chief. Jim Thorpe. But aren't very many of them left. I don't even know if they can. Yeah.
Black Hawk was up in Illinois.
Well, they started in like, I don't know all my Sac Fox stuff, but I think they were started off in the Northeast and they end up in Illinois and in Oklahoma. But they got ran out, but they were never really Plains Indians until they had to be. You know, they've lost all their folkways. As far as I know, maybe they've got something, but very little of it's left.
Let me draw a parallel. The killing of the buffalo, the potato famine. Engineered.
The noble potato.
To get rid of people you don't like. Not a native Irish thing, you know, and you don't have to ride. I mean, you got to dig in the dirt and farm it, but they were made to farm it, made to be monoculture farmers, and then when the blight came, you know, that was awfully convenient.
They were forced to export most other foodstuffs to England. You know, so that was all they were allowed to eat.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a baby formula shortage or something like that, you know?
That's unthinkable.
Oh.
This is America. That wouldn't happen. Baby food shortage? What are you talking about? Yeah, so if you engineer a famine, then you can just kill off or drive off people without the trouble of actually killing them, which is dirty and messy. It's warfare by other means.
1G warfare.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are, you know, the sorts of thoughts iceberg stories can do. I loved Scars of Honor.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't know that there's much plot except the old guy dies, but just their rediscoveries of their customs. This line on page 159. So Joe has done the ritual, and Charlie did something new then. He bandaged the wounds as well as he could with clean gauze and tape from the white man's store. These were new things, not part of the ceremony, but he saw that some new things were good, as long as there were young men strong enough to keep to the old ones. Damn it. I mean, there's so much new now, and I'm inclined to reject all of it. You know, I don't, but I'm inclined that way. But if you would just remember the goods, the old goods, then you can make the new stuff good too. Rather than being disruptive and foreign. And the cell phone would not be the evil that I think in large part it is if we clung to the old ways better.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
So what would that look like? You mount it on the wall and you forego the need for pulling all that wire on all those telephone poles?
Yeah, or, you know, you keep it in your pocket and maybe it has an alarm to remind you to say the Angelus, you know, like your ancestors would have, and you're not just using it for TikTok. And they're great devices. They're very useful but use comes from the telos. It comes from the end. And if your ends are all messed up, then the use is going to be all messed up. Well, your ancestors, if you come from anything like an intact culture, your ancestors worked out a decent way to get to the telos of a human being. Maybe not the best way, because, you know, I don't think all cultures are the same. Some are closer than others, but But they probably had a way. And so you fit your new stuff into that way rather than let the new stuff completely obliterate the way. Long time ago, we read Gabriel Marcel, and he's like, you get this new technology and you don't have the virtues to deal with it. It's too fast. I mean, how long did it take the plow to go across Europe? Well, it took a while. You had to figure it out. The speed of dispersal of new tech. It's not new science, it's new tech. It's way ahead of the culture. So, I am not an old... What tribe was he?
I don't remember.
I forget. Were they Cheyenne too? I am not an old Cheyenne man, but I sympathize with him. Which, these stories do. Yeah, I will read another paragraph, another great paragraph here. 147. Only 2 or 3 of the old men remembered so far back. One of them was Charlie Lockjaw. He was suddenly important. If he had not lived 2 generations too late, he would have been important simply because he was old. His people would have taken it for granted that he was wise because his medicine had protected him for so long against death. They would have listened respectfully when he spoke. There was a time when it was a good thing to be an Indian and old, but Charlie was cheated almost of his honors because he had lived at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
The boys show up. They want to go through this ritual. Charlie looked up, ready to be angry, expecting some disrespectful, hurried greeting like, "Hey, Grandpa, look here." They did not say anything for a while. Embarrassed, they shuffled their boots in the dust. Joe Walking Wolf took off his broad-brimmed hat, because they're all dressed like cowboys, and the other 3 took their hats off too and laid them on the ground. Joe cleared his throat and said in Cheyenne, "Greetings, my grandfather." It was the way a young man talked to a wise old one in the buffalo years that were gone. It's cool. It's respect. It's important. I love that story.
This is happening. The story is told at the beginning of World War II for the United States, so 41, not 38 or 39. These young men either are going to go enlist or be drafted, and both things happen to different ones here in the story. And they want a way to deal with it. They need a ritual. They need a way to prepare for such a thing. If you live in Levittown and you just get a letter.
Oh, sure. If you're going to get drafted and be sent on a landing craft up to Normandy. I was listening to something last night and they were talking about, I read this before, that there was a training exercise for the D-Day invasion that the Germans got wind of and blew up and killed 700 people. To die in a training exercise. So there you are, your individuality's gone, your self-expression is gone, you're another grunt with a rifle. I can't imagine doing that without having a tradition, a worldview to fit myself into. It would be so desolate. The way you think about your cubicle farm, and then you're going to go march up the beach to the German machine gun positions that your artillery didn't take out. Hell with that. Rather lay down and die than do that. But if you believe something, if you're part of something, if you're one of the fighting Sullivans, or if you're one of these kids from this story, then this is what we do. You fit in. It makes noble deeds easier to do. Makes them noble, in fact, because somebody did it. That's way back when our first book is the Iliad that we do at Online Great Books. When you join us, dear listener, you've listened to us long enough. You should really probably sign up by now. Yeah, the first book we do is the Iliad, and it's kind of the story of Achilles, but he's not present in all of it. It's really the story of Diomedes and Odysseus and even Thersites and all of these young men who spent 10 years, the prime of their life, on the beach in a war. And there's parts that people think are boring. The catalog of ships, which I don't read that often, but I do read it, which lists the people that are there. Where they're from, how many ships they brought with them. And every time a character dies in this story, most of the time, Homer tells you their background. Gives a little 2-line story about who they were. He comes from windswept Pylos, from sandy Pylos. He came with his chariot, and at home he welcomed in travelers. He had an inn, and now he's dead, like the poppies in spring. But I think that's crucial. I think, Dorothy Johnson knows, she seems to know how important honor is. And if you're not a part of a tribe or a family or a faith or something, then it doesn't matter what you do. If you're a person without a place, you're just another grunt. It's like
Yep.
I don't know. I'm going to keep going on. The mechanized warfare, you're just feeding people into a sausage grinder. So these young men want to reconnect.
It is a good story.
That's all I'll say.
The book is a good story. The whole thing is, I think this is about Dorothy Johnson. What a creature. I don't think that she's writing about people that she doesn't like. I think this is about characters that she admires. I don't know that for sure. I can't talk to her. We never know authorial intent. It's always a problem, But this tells me something about her character, I think. And I sure do like it. I'll go to war over women like her. And maybe with them. She might kill you with a skillet if she needed to.
You would have had it coming. It would be a good death. I loved Laugh in the Face of Danger.
Latigo.
Latigo Randy. Oh gosh, I almost don't want to spoil it because I'm hoping you guys will go read it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it.
She has the chance when she's young to go off with this outlaw who wants to reform. If only you'll come with me to New Mexico. And she doesn't do it. And regrets it for the rest of her life. Man called horse. I don't know. What else you want to say about it? This is not like going to the buffet. So I like to eat at the buffet because it's gluttonous and I can just load my plate. This is the chef bringing you out. This is when you go to the fancy restaurant, if you're still able to afford such things. You don't look at the menu. You say, have the chef bring me whatever's good.
And it's a square plate with just like a morsel on it.
Yeah. That's what these stories are like.
People are starving for these stories. But we're broken and we can't just tell the clean story about the noble figure. When I say clean, I don't mean not gritty or whatever, but it's told cleanly. Yellowstone is wildly popular right now. And I think it's because people want this story, but nobody will give it to us, and that's the closest we can get. There are people of action in that show. Rip and Beth are both people of action, and people of principles. You may not agree with them, but they're loyal and dutiful, and have their own priorities, and they stand up for those things. And people want these stories. The critic class won't let somebody tell a clean story about a noble hero. They'll say that they lack dimension or depth or character development or complexity or whatever. They would never let somebody tell the story of, Ethan on The Searchers without shitting on it at length in The New Yorker. And that's a shame. Because, we need Robin Hood, and we need King Arthur, and we need John Wayne, and we need Buffalo Bill, and we need Stonewall, and we need Old Hickory. They won't give us one anymore. So that's fine. We have to go find them where they are or make them ourselves and tell our own stories, because people who try to profit from that aren't going to do it for you. XYZ Studios is just not going to give you that story. HBO is not going to give you that story.
Mm-mm. They break the rules all the time. I mean, you go 5 minutes in a movie and you can tell that this is a message movie designed to make me think something. I don't watch that stuff anymore. I've almost thoroughly disentangled it. We watch an occasional movie. It's mostly silly stuff. The reason for the Space Marines, the reason for the Hallmark movies is not because I don't like good movies. It's because there aren't any.
Right.
Or there aren't many. They're all trying to mold me and propagandize me in obvious ways. I don't care to do that. So I'm going to watch some light stuff, or I'm going to listen to Space Marines fight aliens. And that's good enough. But there's room for better stuff. And so this week's book is some better stuff.
I have been finding some of that stuff in genealogy. So there.
Yeah, what did you find?
Charity and I both on our great-grandparents. Well, no, not for her. Me, my great-grandparents and her great-great-grandparents. Her people have kids a little faster than my people. Her great-great-grandparents and my great-grandparents were contemporaries. We're all pioneer people that came to Indian Territory and slept on the ground until they made a structure to sleep in. And we're not that far removed from those stories and those people. Yeah, I've been kind of collecting that up and drawing the squiggly line on the map where they came from Georgia and through Alabama and then through Tennessee and then Arkansas and Indian Territory. And here I sit. And, had a war in the midst of all of that. Yeah, the stories are there. Some of them I've been told, and some of them I have to infer. You see that Hambricks that were in the Civil War and got discharged, and some of them drowned crossing rivers and fled the Deep South and moved west when their country was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, well, what does all that matter? They're all dead.
Right.
The dead past. Meanwhile, I hear the low-rise skirt is coming back. I saw that trending on Twitter.
The low-rise skirt? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't click on it.
Okay.
That's the important stuff. The stuff that's happening now. That's the only thing that's important, what's on the trend line.
Huh. Trending. Yeah, it's still trending on Twitter. Not gas prices, not inflation, not baby food shortages, not nitrogen prices, not pending nuclear war, not the fact that Mexico will not come to trade conferences in the United States, not that Saudi Arabia will not turn President Biden's phone calls, not that North Korea is going to test a nuclear weapon supposedly in the next week. None of that. Low-rise skirts.
Well, yeah, I mean, the girl's pretty, I suppose. That makes it important.
I didn't know they had to make a comeback. I didn't know that was ever not a big deal.
You didn't know it ever gone away?
No. I don't want to talk about the book too much because I think it's that good.
Yeah.
I could just read and go line by line. I really could. It's just so tasty. I love the characters. I love the setting. I love Dorothy Johnson. I love the themes. I love the style. I just love it. But you need to go read it. It's not that long. They're short stories. You can read one of them while you're on the toilet a day. It's 197 pages, and it's just a killer. You need to go read it. I know we read a lot of stuff that's just... it's just too big of a chunk maybe, or it doesn't pique your interest. Well, this is low risk. Like, it's a short story. Go read it, and you'll see. You know what it's like? It's like Dashiell Hammett. Just that tight, purposeful writing that just hits the nail on the head every time. Just the way it's supposed to be. Just the right amount of whack,
Well, and how do you learn to do stuff like this? Well, the Atlantic Monthly is buying stories this month with a word limit of, 5,000 words. Okay, you got to write your story in 5,000 words. The constraints of writing for magazines change the style of the writing. Just like, religious fasting regulations give you cuisine. Opposite of Charles Dickens, who got paid by the word.
Yeah, it's super good.
And therefore... yeah, whose novels are too long.
Yeah, I'll read some more. Dorothy Johnson. There's a guy that wrote science fiction stories in the 40s, 50s, 60s, Frederick Brown. Frederick with a C. I think he was an immigrant.
Frederick Brown.
No, he's a nobody. He wrote a couple of detective novels. One of them's the Fabulous Clip Joint. And he wrote for... detective fiction magazines and science fiction magazines. And he just writes like this. It's just tight as a fiddle string, man. It's just perfect stories. Some of the stories in his books are like 3 pages, and he just kills it. And we might have to read the Fabulous Clip Joint. It's It's like this, a lot like this. A little
I
flowery.
figured I would have heard of him.
Well, Karl, I've got I'm in hiding all kinds of little jewels from you. I can't show you everything right now. Like, what will I do on our 25th anniversary?
I don't know. On the back, it says, now you can join the Western Preview Club. Here's your chance to read Western novels and short stories by some of the best-known writers in the field. And it has this little slip. As a member, you will receive each month the latest Ballantine Western title mailed directly to your door. For a full year subscription of the next 12 books, simply fill out the coupon below and mail together with $4, check or money order, to Ballantine Books, 101 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York. I want to do it. Do you think they would honor it?
Oh, they've moved 45 times.
Yeah, but if they got a letter with $4, would I get the books?
No,
There's a story right there.
some mailroom clerk would just pocket it and go buy half of a coffee with it. How high trust do you have to be to, send $4 to the whatever and expect to actually get it, I don't think it works that way anymore, Karl. Karl, shoot.
But what if you did? What if you did get the books?
That'd be good.
What if there's some Bartleby sitting in an office there waiting for people to send in things to the Western Preview Club, and the last one came in 1964, and he's just been sitting there preferring not to because none of these have come in.
What if that address is actually a wormhole and your envelope goes back to 1953?
Now, would it change the future or change the past?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just giving you the beats, the movie treatment, and then you'll have to have somebody come and punch the story up.
Yeah.
I'm not, got to have somebody come and punch it up.
Yeah, this one was a pleasure, so thanks.
Yeah, Marcia doesn't ever do us wrong. Sort of. I was going to look here. I've got a story here, a book of short stories called Nightmares in Giesenstacks by Frederick Brown. And it has these 3-page stories in it. I looked high and low for years and years, no kidding, to find a copy of that book, and then I scanned it, and I don't think I have the hard copy anymore because it was in worse shape than these Dorothy Johnson books. And if my PDF is corrupted and I don't have a good backup of it somewhere, we're in trouble, lads. We can't be having this. Oh, no. Foundation Book 1? Is that what's up? Is that what's coming?
Yep.
I'm not reading John Dos Passos, I'll tell you that. Not doing it. Think about that.
My daughter, my artsy daughter, asked me, is James Joyce any good? What do you think about Ulysses? And I told her, I thought it's really good, but I'm not sure what the point is. And so I read for her the first couple, well, they're not really paragraphs, but the first couple of paragraphs of Ulysses. And on the surface, it's like that John Dos Passos thing, except it's not. It's much meatier. You get directly into character, and it still has no punctuation and might ultimately make no sense, but it's just so... The guy did the thing that nobody else could do, and then after he did that, other people try to imitate it poorly. And then critics say, well, this is stream of consciousness sort of writing. This must be good, when it's not. The only person in the world who could have written that stuff was James Joyce. Not Virginia Woolf, sorry. Not William Faulkner. But having written it, I don't know why. Why did you do it, James?
We're going to have to read some Hemingway. We haven't done that yet. We need to read some Tennessee Williams. We don't need to read any Faulkner. Oh, God. It's all so wearisome.
I've tried.
I've read quite a bit. I've read quite a bit of Faulkner. I thought I needed to.
Well, he's important.
Right. He's a Southern writer. Like Hambrick has to read Faulkner.
Yeah. I guess I have to read Saul Bellow.
No, you don't. No. Faulkner.
Shall we cut this show uncharacteristically short
Yeah, let's do that.
in honor of the uncharacteristically short stories of Dorothy M. Johnson?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you, Marcia, for sending that our way and focusing our attention on it. She also wants us to read some of these Horatio Alger stories. I've read some of those when I was a younger person, and that'd be good to hit them again. You know, the rags to riches, type stories from the 1800s would be great.
We could do a little bit of self-promotion before we sign off.
Okay.
So you should, if you have not already, I don't know why you're listening to us if you have not gotten on the mailing list. Please do. It helps us out, lets us know that we're not just shouting into the void. You can go to the store at onlinegreatbooks.com. You can buy stuff. We have cool T-shirts. Are there still copies of the Timeline?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are some of those left.
World History Timeline. Good stuff over there. Come join us. It'll be the best. I don't even know how much it costs, but it'll be whatever it costs. It's not enough. It'll be the best money you spent.
Yeah, for $9, you can get an audiobook of me reading Oswald Spengler to you. Come on. What more would you want?
We have other businesses. We both do strength coaching.
Hmm?
If you would like to work on your physical well-being and you think you want me in your ear hole, you can find me at barbell-logic.com/kshoot. And you can do the same for Scott. If you want him,
Yeah. That'd be fun.
black-pilling you about your deadlifts.
Yeah, I'll try to help you.
What else?
If you want more, you can go to t.me/ScottStream, and there's all kinds of weird chat there. Me and Karl are in it all the time. Trent's in it all the time. You can listen to us on the Music and Ideas show. We just did one on Wes Montgomery not too long ago. Wasn't too shabby. And we got one about show tunes coming up. It's going to be really hard for me. So go listen to that. That'll be good. I hope. It's going to be hard for me, Karl.
Well, you'll rise to the occasion.
It's going to be hard.
Yep. Occasionally writing at karlshoot.com. Occasionally, it's been a couple of weeks. I'll get something out there soon. There's an idea percolating.
Oh, yeah. What is it? Can you get a sneak peek?
Free range humans.
Oh. Are you coming around to unschooling?
That's it.
Are you coming around to the unschooling way?
I think it's going to be a different take on it than that.
Oh.
Yeah. And there are other podcasts. That other podcast that I'm not on is, I think I'm one episode behind on the Growing Resilience podcast that you're doing with Todd
Dwyer.
But that's promising. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, if you're interested in homesteading and kind of self-reliant stuff and permaculture and all that, we're starting to talk about that. We recorded our 6th episode today, and it typically comes out on Monday, though we were not able to do it this Monday because of family things. But Mondays you should get shows. And that's been a great deal of fun. Doing a show like this or like that one or Music and Ideas, any of these kinds of podcasts that we do force me to think more better. And that's a very good thing.
Oh, and I want to plug our producer.
Oh, yeah?
Because at the School Sucks podcast, which is no longer active, except now it is, Brett has been releasing the top 50. So if you don't want to listen to all 750 episodes of the School Sucks podcast, you can just listen to the top 50 and learn about the hidden history of compulsory education. Lots of good stuff there.
Would you like to hear would you like me to read a 2-page story, the first story from Nightmares and Geese and Stacks by Frederick Brown?
Could I say no?
Sure. Title.
Go ahead.
Nasty. Walter Beauregard had been an accomplished and enthusiastic lecher for almost 50 years. Now, at the age of 65, he was in danger of losing his qualifications for membership in the Legion. In danger of losing? Nay, let us be honest, he had lost. For 3 years now, he had been to doctor after doctor, quack after quack, had tried nostrum after nostrum, utterly to no avail. Finally, he remembered his books on magic and necromancy. There were books he had enjoyed collecting and reading as part of his extensive library, but he had never taken them seriously until now. What did he have to lose? In a musty, evil-smelling but rare volume, he found what he wanted, As it instructed, he drew the pentagram, copied the Kabbalistic markings, lighted the candles, and read aloud the incantation. There was a flash of light and a puff of smoke, and the demon. I won't describe the demon except to assure you that you wouldn't have liked him. "What is your name?" Beauregard asked. He tried to make his voice steady, but it trembled a little. The demon made a sound somewhere between a shriek and a whistle, with overtones of a bull fiddle being played with a crosscut saw. Then he said, "You won't be able to pronounce that. In your dull language, it would translate as nasty. Just call me nasty. I suppose you want the usual thing?" "What's the usual thing?" Beauregard wanted to know. "A wish, of course. All right, you can have it, but not 3. What business about 3 wishes is sheer superstition. 1 is all you get, and you won't like it." "1 is all I want, and I can't imagine not liking it." "You'll find out. All right, I know what your wish is, and here's the answer to it." Nasty reached into thin air, and his hand vanished and came back holding a pair of silvery-looking swimming trunks. He held them out to Beauregard. "Wear them in good health," he said. "What are they? What do they look like?" "Swimming trunks, but they're special. The material is out of the future, a few millenniums from now. It's indestructible. They'll never wear out or tear or snag. It's nice stuff, but the spell on them is plenty old. Try them on and find out." The demon vanished. Walter Beauregard quickly stripped and put on the beautiful silvery swimming trunks. Immediately he felt wonderful. Virility coursed through him. He felt as though he were a young man again and started his lecherous career. Quickly he put on a robe and slippers. Have I mentioned that he was a rich man? And his home was a penthouse atop the swankiest hotel in Atlantic City? He was, and it was. He went downstairs in his private elevator and outside to the hotel's luxurious swimming pool. It was, as usual, surrounded by gorgeous bikini-clad beauties showing off their wares under the pretense of acquiring a tan, while they waited for propositions from wealthy men like Beauregard. He took time choosing, but not too much time. 2 hours later, still clad in the wonderful magic trunks, he sat on the edge of his bed and stared at and sighed for the beautiful blonde who lay stretched out on the bed beside him, bikiniless and sound asleep. Nasty had been right, and so well named. The miraculous trunks, the indestructible, unterrible trunks, worked perfectly. But if he took them off, or even let them down, ... I don't know. Anyway, it's just, that's not the best one, but they're just like two-page things.
I liked under the pretense of getting a tan.
Yes.
Good line.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be speaking to you in another couple of weeks, and we'll be talking about Asimov and his battalions.
Yes.
Foundation, Book 1.
Foundation.
Talk to you then.